that question number 1 and question number 2 are so related because, as you said, looking at national indications for blood, well, that speaks to me that you need to have a national blood program. And looking at data, which evidence-based medicine, to make our decisions, once again, you have to define the data points. If we're all using our own different data points and different definitions, it's meaningless. So once again, that goes back to a national blood plan or a blood program. So I see these two goals as parts of the same whole.
This is why we designed these questions together, so just to try to find different things.
Who experienced working in blood bank in an institution adopting choosing wisely programs? Choosing wisely.
What do you mean by that?
This is
The U.S. version.
It started in Canada and USA, and now it's in Europe. It's so you have it. Any impact on the utilization of blood?
Oh, absolutely.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
And thank you so much. Choosing Wisely is a very important initiative and program started in Canada and USA, and now it's in Europe and some of the Far East countries. And alhamdulillah, luckily, we started in the Kingdom now in 3 hospitals. National Guard, they started the first, and now in Hafr al-Batan and Al-Taif, they are piloting with Ministry of Health. And if we will be successful, inshallah, in the coming 2 years, Choosing Wisely is going to be something adopted by all hospitals. And I'm happy now to know that blood bank is going to be covered in that.
Very excellent.
We have a slogan in blood banks. We say that always. The best transfusion is the one never happened.
True.
That's the same phrase.
True.
What is it?
That's exactly what we say. The best transfusion is the best. That hasn't happened is the best one. Yeah.
Choosing one.
Yeah. Well, I think due to the time, really, we want to hear more from you, but we have to stop to some, degree. But we're actually, Dr. Muhammad and I, were trying really to address the issue of that. If you go for a fragmented system, you will suffer some problems, and if you go for national blood transfusion services, you have to think 100 times before you take the decision. So this dilemma actually, and I'm really lucky because to have 2 key persons in Ministry of Health from the blood banks and from the hospitals, with this meeting, and 2 experts from international and also. So.
I think 3 parts. One is the due diligence that we are doing before taking any major decision.
Okay.
This will help. The second one is the piloting part, which is smaller scale to bigger scale that you can learn from that definitely. And also before taking decisions, I like this word, they say it a lot in the PRO, no regrets move.
Yeah.
The moves that you are making, you will not regret it if you kept people working and you are subsidizing more. Yeah. And the 4th one, we are bold, aren't we? We have guts. We will do it.
All the best, and we are really happy to hear all of this. The last maybe few minutes is an open question session for all the audience. Anything that you want to ask these key persons for any topic during the last 2 days, please feel free.
Hello, my name is Munir Kredis from Qasim University. I would like to thank you all for enlightening me and increasing my knowledge about that subject and changing my perspective. I would like to know, since you are expert in that field, I wonder how can I, as a student, as an individual, help the society awareness regarding blood donation. In other words, how can I, as a student, change people's views and motivate them to donate blood more often and increase their awareness? Thank you. I've tried actually, but there's like no Like there's no
success.
centers for female.
There's nothing like being a role model, I think. So obviously you've tried.
Yeah, sorry, yeah, it's okay.
No, that's fine.
No, it's okay, just because maybe...
you did try to donate blood. I think as a young person, the first step to take, if you want to inspire other people to donate blood, is become a blood donor yourself, because you can't expect other people to do it if you don't lead first. So that's one small thing.
Yeah, you're right.
So you mean that the best motivator is the one who is already motivated? So I think that's exactly true. No?
That's super true. And living the experience yourself and then spreading the message among your friends and family. And then in the future, you can become a volunteer with blood services too.
If I can just comment on this question, King Saud University years ago had very special really initiative for students, and they had actually a blood center. Those who graduated from King Saud, they know that there is the the hall, university hall. They have actually a place where you can go and donate, and they give you some tokens, which just that time meant a lot for students. And I think Professor Abdul Qadir, or maybe you know him, has actually published a book describing their experience in this. It's really very good experience, and personally I'm trying really to coin it with Jazan University, and we have also our colleagues from the university. It's very good to have like a student society where you can moderate and encourage each other to be a donor, but you need a blood center within the university campus. I think that would be one of the initiatives that we may also try to facilitate the donors to actually be donating even during the break time or before they finish or after they finish, the school day. So, yeah.
I mean, we also organize a lot of community service events. We go like to shopping malls, and we go where the people are, and we do like community service events to increase the awareness of people about certain diseases. And hearing from my students, this initiative is going to give me more responsibility to focus on blood donation. Then, so the next community service event is going to be on blood donation. Thank you so much.
Okay. Any more questions from the audience? Yes, Abdullah. You have 3 questions because of your.
For Dr. Mary, if I'm not mistaken, you've been involved in the forming, as it were, the questionnaire with FDA. Yeah. How difficult or how easy to add one more question, and based on what? Is there any plan to change the period for the deferral of some questionnaires because of the advanced tests like PCR NAT or different endemic area, or did you select the questionnaire upon your statistic or your diseases, or did you consider other countries? Because we are following, I think, what you are written in your questionnaire.
Well, now you're making me go back 20 years to 2000. We actually started the process by looking at all the different questionnaires that were available in the United States. And you can imagine there were many, many, many. And we started out by, number one, looking at what our regulators required. And our regulators were at the table with us. So it was US, Canada, and the regulators. So we did not operate in a vacuum. So we looked at every single question that is asked. And we asked 2 things. Is it required by a regulator, either FDA or AABB? And number 2, is it necessary? And we, if it was FDA required, we couldn't touch it. And that was on the table. We said we understood we can't touch it. Now that didn't mean we didn't go back later and work with FDA to make some changes on their requirements, and we could change the question then. But then the next thing we did was we wanted to make it evidence-based. So for every question we looked at, what is the information we're looking for? Why are we doing it, and do we need it? And is there evidence out there? And sadly, almost none of the questions had any scientific basis. So because of that, we were able to take a number of things off the questionnaire, like acupuncture, different things that had no scientific evidence that they made any difference. So we came up with a draft questionnaire, and then the task was to reword it. The questions were abysmal. We would ask somebody in the same sentence, have you ever had yellow jaundice, had a test for hepatitis, or had a history of hepatitis? And at the end of the question, the donor didn't know what they were answering. They had no idea. They might focus on the first question. Have you ever had yellow jaundice? No. So they'd answer the question, no. Have you ever had a positive test? So compound questions were out. And so we went through and simplified every single question to try to make it a single issue question. We took out jargon. The questionnaire was full of jargon, and we know we still use jargon, and it turns off donors and it confuses donors, and we're still guilty of it. And then we clustered. We clustered the questionnaire according to a time frame, because we were making people do mental time challenge, time travel. 2 weeks ago, did you do this? 6 years ago, did you do that? Yesterday, did you do this? So it was like, wait a minute. Let's take people from today and go back in time. Today, are you feeling healthy and well? Today, did you take any of these medications? Today, this. In the last 2 weeks, have you? In the last month, have you? In the last 12 months, and we have a lot of 12 months questions. In the last 3 years, have you ever? So we were able to take people so that they could rationally look at what they had done going back through time. And the next thing we did was validate the questionnaire using the CDC services. So that took 4 years. And when the questionnaire was put into place, no, we did not actually look at other countries. It was designed for the United States. Canada, we knew was going to follow. It was enough to get our hands around what was going on in the USA. Now, if you're using the donor questionnaire, there are things built in that you can do, and I understand that you are using the questionnaire. We made it so that you could add questions to the questionnaire at any time you wanted to. You had to put them at the end. Now, whether this remains viable or not, I don't know. It's a really tough question. If you add a new question at the bottom and it's a question about 2 weeks ago, then you've already violated this going back in time. But in America, you can add questions to the end of the questionnaire, and some people have to if they sell plasma to Europe, and there are specific European questions for plasma, like endoscopy and things like that. So they do add questions to the end of the questionnaire. But, in terms of, I know every country has their own specific risk factors, their own specific issues. There's no reason why you can't actually, you can use the AAB questionnaire. You could insert your own questions and still call it the AAB questionnaire. Honestly. Does that answer your question? I hope.
Currently, we have 2 questions that I'm loud enough.
You are loud enough. As am I.
We have currently 2 questions that I know of that we have added. One of them is related to brucellosis, and because of the camel business. And also we have seasonal questions that we add based on our ID physicians when we have the you know, the corona, when you have the Rift Valley, dengue fever, anything related to that season. And we consult our infectious disease department, the ministry, if we have to introduce additional measures. And we don't introduce them into the original unified donor history questionnaires. We add as an appendices or additional ones that they will do. Even sometimes we do not, if the hospital use a computer system, it doesn't even enter into the computer system. We just document it externally for that period of time. For example, we don't have West Nile virus. Every season of mosquito season, we ask the ID department, have we ever have a report of encephalitis or anything? If they said no, and we just continue. What the debate we have is actually something which is I don't like at all is we fiddle and tamper with the malaria questions. And that's really bad because of, you know, somebody trying to do good but actually end up to be bad. You know what I'm talking about, the malaria testing? Nobody is doing it. Are you doing any malaria testing?
No, they're doing for research only, yes.
So you know what they did, which is a long time ago, I'm trying to stop it, but I need the ID people to help me with that, to stop the malaria testing because it's deceiving. People are testing for malaria and believing that if they tested negative for malaria that they are not infectious, which is wrong. The best defense you get is the malaria questions, the sequence, the 3 questions you're asking. And even, believe it or not, even if you apply molecular malaria testing, it is not sensitive enough. Still, it can show negative result, yet they are infectious. And this is where we have problem with. And I think we should stop malaria testing and enforce the donor, the questions.
We do the same thing, if you think about it. We do the same thing. We just have different seasonal things, like babesiosis. You don't have to worry about that, but we do, and it is seasonal. Same thing as we have a whole bunch of questions ready for Ebola. You never know when that's going to break out, and we'll have to be asking about that. So we do the same thing you do.
Seasonal.
We do seasonal things, Zika. We used to ask questions about Zika. Now we've pocketed them now that Zika's not in our area, but they're ready to go. Should we need to throw them back onto the questionnaire, they're ready to go in a heartbeat. So we have the same issues.
We'll have maybe the last question here. But before that, if I just comment on your point regarding malaria, we had yesterday actually discussed like the problem of our current policy now in Saudi Arabia. We have actually the AABB guidelines that if you are from endemic malaria, you should be deferred for if you are resident, or if you are like travelers, or if you are like had a clinical malaria. But the problem, we have some areas within the Saudi Arabia classified as endemic areas. So
different story. That's different. I'm talking about in general in Saudi Arabia. And when you go, Abdullah, you can't verify this for me or any blood bank supervisor. People get easy with the malaria question because they think, oh, we are doing testing. No, the best defense is the donor questions, and you have to ask them. Secondly, I think the people who do the serology malaria testing know that we are throwing a lot.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, this is...
and get this one also. Some places, they are not even doing serology. You know what they are doing? They're doing thick film.
Yeah, so, again, exactly. I mean, this is the
very,
problem.
very subjective.
We wanted you to be there yesterday because we need to have actually another, to revisit the malaria issue in Saudi Arabia. It has a lot of complications.
We need to have a task force for that. Somebody.
You know, you just travel to Jizan for or to Najran or to Khamis Mshet for overnight, and you are deferred for 1 year. Is that really the right period that we should defer you for? Is it like, can we go to what is in Europe or in UK, like for 6 months, 4 months now? Because actually you end up with losing a lot of donors. Now there are a lot of traveling now between like Riyadh and these areas which is classified to be malaria endemic. So the point, I mean, there are a lot of discussion, but I think really we need to have a very specific discussion for malaria in Saudi Arabia. Yeah, Dr.
I mean, I'll try to make it very short. It's just like a purely academic point of view question. I find like quite discrepancy in using terms such as volunteer I've noticed that you subclassify the volunteer to subclasses. And some study that I've seen, they used term volunteer, but in fact they are not volunteer. I mean, we know that voluntarily donors, they get a lot of incentives here, and so they got King Abdulaziz Medal, and they get. I think for academics, we need to really define the terms so we can speak the same language when we read the articles. I mean, I can't use volunteer and by somebody his own interpretation for this term, he called this donor as volunteer and give us maybe misguiding data. And this is my just question. I don't know who's going to comment it.
Thank you. I have to read something for you because you asked لقد سألت عن عظيم. You asked for a great thing. Someone highly important was asking me a message. He said that about the donor matter. I have to read this in Arabic, then I will try to translate it in English. Say, في بنوك الدم يجب أن نتحرى الدقة وتسمية الأمور. هذا اللي كتبته لي الرد. يسأل عن في بنوك الدم يجب أن نتحرى الدقة وتسمية الأمور بتسمياتها. فهناك فرق بين التحفيز ودفع مقابل لمعطي الدم. حيث أن الأخرى دفع المقابل اللي هي دفع المقابل تجرد معطي الدم من مسمى متبرع بالدم، فهو أقرب إلى مسمى بائع الدم. في مجتمع بنوك الدم هناك جدل كبير يدور حول الكثير من المحفزات التي تعطى للمتبرعين بالدم، وهي بالواقع أقرب إلى أن تكون مقابل مالي، مثل يوم الإجازة والأوسمة والأنواط العسكرية. يرى البعض أن الأوسمة والأنواط رمزية ومعنوية، وبالواقع أكثر من يطلبها هو يسعى للمقابل المادي، حيث أن القطاع العسكري يعطي تلك الأوسمة والأنواط قيمة عند مفاضلة الترقيات، والقطاع المدني يمنح بدل تميز لها. وصاحب هذه الرسائل يطلب بتخفيض، وأخرى الرسائل تطلب بتخفيضات وإعفاءات من رسوم حكومية مقابل التبرع. منذ 10 سنوات أو أكثر قمت بأخذ عينة، وهذه دراسة سويتها أنا صغيرة، بأخذ عينة عشوائية من المتبرعين بالدم الذين منحوا أوسمة وأنواط مقابل تبرعهم بالدم. هذا الكلام يمكن من 15 سنة تقريبا بالدم. ووجدت أن الأغلبية العظمى توقفت عن التبرع بالدم بعد حصولها على الوسام أو النوط، أي صلى المصلي لأمر كان يطلبه فلما قضي الأمر لا صلى ولا صام. وكان هذا هو عنوان المقال اللي كتبتها في الجريدة وجاني عليها انتقاد. معاليكم بزعمي أن تلك المحفزات كانت ذا فائدة في وقت سنها، وإني أتطلع إلى اليوم الذي نحقق به التبرع بالدم طوعي حقيقي وكامل، ثم نتقدم بطلب من المقام السامي لإلغاء منح هذه الأوسمة. واعتذر الإطالة، أنا طولت عليكم، لكن بالضبط it should stop. Now we are giving the Medal of Honor for anyone who is giving 10 and 50 times donating blood. And people think of it as a Medal of Honor. Actually, in the military side, that can be distinguishing for the person. And I did some surveillance on random sample of people who get these Medal of Honors, and a lot of them not even donated once after they get that Medal of Honor. So it helps them for promotion, and even in our workforce, they consider that as part for وش التميز excellence, like something to distinguish them from others. So definition is clear. A volunteer donor is a person who felt the responsibility toward his society and came willingly to the donor center to give blood. Nothing else. Not even after, there is a guy called Nigel, I remember him, that he's a Christian guy working in our group, he's not even a Muslim, because we believe that you are not allowed to sell your blood. A lot of feel that. He used to pass by the cafeteria and get his cookies and juice from the cafeteria. He paid for that. He doesn't take our cookies and juice for giving blood. Can you believe it? Altruistic, yeah. Altruistic too.
Actually, very, it's really a debatable area. the definitions you've mentioned. But actually, maybe to understand everything, you have to take into the historical perspective. Blood donation was considered a fine, perceived as a fine at some point, because at some point you are obliged to donate if you are applying for driver's license. So it's changing this perspective from paying a fine to something that you get rewarded for is probably, as you said, it should have been put in the prospect of transitioning from a bad area to the right way to go. But I mean, this extreme, you're bringing your own juice and bringing your own cookies. I don't think that really it beats your intention of being a volunteer donor. Or
I'm just telling you an example of, as you said, it's tajarrud.
Yes, this is good. Like on the individual basis, it's good.
I'm calling for giving like a warm hospitality, good greeting, good catering, nice environment. I've seen in Copenhagen they give them wine.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Here. Okay.
Not for many years.
You used to do that?
No, in UK, a long time ago. Yeah, when the university.
A pint for pint.
When they used to take.
Which, Guinness or what?
No.
Yeah.
Many years ago in the UK, what they used to do is when they went to university, they would get a voucher they'd either get a pint of Guinness or a pint of stout because it replaces the iron. So, of course, a lot of our donors in their 50s now started donating at university because they used to get a free pint. Yeah.
Think about it.
We can't do it anymore, no. It wouldn't be then voluntary if you give them that, because it's remunerated.
I don't know if we can, move from incentives. Definitely non-financial incentives. Whenever it's direct money, it's selling and buying. The non-financial incentives, we can move away from it and substitute it with nudging, which is a behavioral intervention that is, happening over the last 5 years to be a very important theory in behavior and behavioral economics. And the Nobel winner last year, Richard Thaler, was awarded because of his work in this area. I think that working in that area and making some researches and studies and pilots to nudge people without giving any incentives, because nudging is nothing to do with incentives, is something that deserve, I guess, to be tested, and we can try to move in that direction to encourage the pure voluntary donation.
Yeah, I would totally agree. And in Copenhagen, there was quite a lot of discussion and presentations around loyalty programs. And we're having a real struggle at the moment because we have a loyalty program. They'll get a blood group badge on their second donation. They'll get a bronze badge, and it goes all the way up to gold. And then platelet donors can get plaques, etc. But because we're trying to drive down, we're having to change our loyalty program, and they would be invited to award ceremonies. So I think there were some very good suggestions about loyalty programs rather than incentives. Yes. I know they do in America. Some of the things I've done now, their incentive programs really do border on alternative payment. So I would class that as, and I think you need to be careful.
To be tested. Mm-hmm. And one word for our ladies is that you are now attending and watching the games, football games in the stadiums, driving, and now it's time to donate too.
Exactly.
I think for you young ladies, it's about focusing on a moment of pride. One of the things we do in our school's educational programme is we say to our 17-year-olds, you can start donating at the age of 17, and it's one of the first decisions you can make as an adult, and you are making that choice yourself. So apart from applying for your driving licence, you can actually choose to be a donor and save someone's life, and that really works. Yes.
It's just like a quick comment to Dr. Maha's presentation. I'll promise I'll make my closing remarks short, so it won't take time. About sending text to donors, and I know it's really encouraging, and we saw the response. But I'm just a bit worried about the regular donors. If they donate, they get SMS that their blood has been used. So what about if it hasn't been used? They may start be worried about it. So have you thought of this?
Yes, it might happen.
Yeah.
And some people actually came to us asking whether they had, whether we found anything in their blood because they didn't get that message, and they were worried that they had a positive test for infectious disease. Nobody ever actually from our regular donors came to ask. I didn't get the regular message. Why? Nobody yet approached me with this question. I do understand it's a risk, but the positive side of this intervention is overwhelming.
To maybe conclude this session and this meeting, it's been a special meeting and special time for me and all of you. Thank you very much for your time, your sharing, and your givings. I'm very glad really to, have you all here. And I don't think it's, when we started thinking about designing the scientific programs, no one of us actually were ever thought that we can have all these people sitting beside each other. It was a dream actually, and I think we are successful to do this. So I'd like just to hand the microphone to the chairperson of the scientific committee to do the closing remark. Thank you very much, and it's been a pleasure.
Oh, thank you so much. Yes, you're right, Dr. Abdullah. It was a dream. Now it became true. I'm not quite sure if I can handle this. As I promised you, I will make the closing remark as short as I can. So at the end of this conference, we are so grateful to all of our brilliant speakers and chairpersons for their superior contributions to the conference. 2 days went so quickly. We really enjoyed it. And can we extend it? we really enjoyed the time. So truly, we can't thank you so much. Thank you so much. And also, we'd like to thank the audience for being with us until the end of the conference. Oh, there's another ongoing workshop. So some of our audience downstairs and at the workshop. Also, we'd like to thank our sponsors and participating parties for their contributions and support. We'd like to thank also the organizing committee. A special thank yous to the volunteer team from Medical Laboratory Science Department at Qassim University for their contribution in organizing this event. Thank you so much for your girls. Finally, we would like to express our gratitude to His Royal Highness Prince Dr. Faisal bin Mishal bin Saud bin Abdulaziz, the Governor of Qassim, and the chairman of the board of Blood Bank Friend Charity, and the members of the board for their support. And we hope to see you in another scientific activity. Thank you so much. That's all. By the way, we're going to draft the recommendations, and we might send it to you just to look at it before. So we're going to have a meeting with the scientific committee, and just send it to you to look at it. Thank you so much.